Hi, everybody. You know, what I wanted to talk about today, it's really not actually the topic that I want to talk about, but I will just mention it in the beginning. I recorded a video a couple of days ago and I deleted it. I posted it for just a little bit and I deleted it. And the reason why I deleted it was because of how much guilt I felt. And the guilt was towards my parents. How interesting, because I dragged them into the video, into the story, and it's mostly my mother, and it wasn't disrespectful at all, but in my eyes it kind of was, and I felt guilt. But it probably ties with my feeling of shame lately. So being ashamed of yourself and what you do and what you say, and then that shame tied with the guilt towards my parents, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that actually, even. But that sense of guilt that I felt, the feeling of guilt, it kind of, there was no need for it actually. Now that I think of it, there was no need for the feeling. It's just there. I believe the whole reason for me recording the video and deleting it was for that guilt to come to the surface. I guess I'm still working through it, and I was going to talk about this in length, about the feeling of guilt and how it first came and all that, but actually I want to talk about what I talked about in the deleted video, right? Because it's about me and my process, not so much, not about my parents, although they're a big part of my inner process. So I've spent now many years working on myself and self-reflection and observation and analysis and healing and different practices and group practices and all kinds of stuff, and then returning again to just myself, working with just introspection and self-reflection and all that. And what came up to the surface was I saw myself. A few years ago, I didn't even know that most of what I was saying and believing and the way I was acting was actually totally what my mother is, how my mother behaves and thinks and acts, and her emotional states. And that was for me like shocking, right? But more shocking was then, that was really shocking, and really asking myself, who am I then? Who am I then if all my patterns, behavioral patterns, are actually copy paste of my mother, right? And then sometime later, I guess things come in layers. They don't come all at once because it's so overwhelming. When I had to spend more time with my parents, I actually had an issue with the way my father was, and the way his mind is always trying to overanalyze, overthink everything, the little details. So always in control of everything. Just me, let me. I know this better, and this is like this, and don't do like this, and and since I observe myself a lot, and it's not just me being triggered and not knowing why, I knew why, because this is how my mind works. My mind is in overdrive and always overthinking, always overanalyzing, always like not letting me breathe. And I've had periods of time where I thought I would lose my mind, totally lose my mind. It just wouldn't stop. It was like torture. And then seeing my father, it's like the externalized version of my own mental processes. It's like, can you imagine having issues with your own way of thinking because you've being able to detach from yourself a little bit, be an outside observer, and actually view it as the consciousness, is the awareness that actually is our true self, right? The true awareness behind everything that's happening in this mind, the human mind. And just observing myself and seeing and not being able to change it, though it's like so painful. And then seeing my father, it's like this externalized and amplified my own issues, my mental mind in overdrive, and seeing it in him, and it's triggering me. And I would just say, please stop over analyzing and overthinking everything. It's driving me crazy. But what is driving me crazy actually is my own mind driving me crazy. And on the outside, in the externalized, it's like my mind on the outside mirroring back my own mind. And it's just mind-blowing. And both, it's like I'm combination of those extremes. It's like the extreme aspects of both my parents combined in one, but it's like in its most extreme amplified state. And I believe this is the reason why I am the way I am. It's the conditioning from childhood, yeah, but maybe I already came with these programs like set in motion and then amplified by the conditioning from childhood, and now it's become so painfully, overwhelmingly unbearable. I've reached the limit, the threshold of my ability to handle this within. In my internal battle is constant my whole life, and now it's becoming more and more obvious, and it's, oh my god. And I think that was the reason why I went through this difficult period. I mean, not so difficult, with my parents, but difficult within me. Just, reliving and living with my own inner battle and externalized. And it's, maybe I just reached the threshold, and it's probably either a breakdown or a breakthrough. It can't just go on like this. Breakthrough, hopefully it's going to be a breakthrough. So that's pretty much what I shared in the other video. It was more in a different way, making me feel guilty. But I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this. I believe the ugliest war, the most important war, the war that we need to not win, there are no winners really, is the war that we live within ourselves, inner struggle. And within me, it's a constant, and it's becoming worse and worse. And I have the feeling that it's within everybody as well. They just don't realize it. I mean, the conflicts in the outside world is because the conflicts within become so unbearable that they get expressed into the outside world, but people don't realize it. They don't go within to see what's happening inside yourself. It all starts with the individual, right? So this is my inner struggle. It's emotional, mental roller coaster, and it's quite difficult, but there's a way. But I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's, I believe, this spiral going up and going down. The spiral, it just keeps bringing you back to the same problems on a deeper and deeper level, and it gets heavier and more difficult to work through it, but you have to, right? But it's quite difficult. That's what I wanted to share, really. I don't know if I expressed exactly how I wanted to share it. I don't know if I was clear in explaining what I wanted to explain and share, but it's okay. It was still me sharing myself. Thank you.